Now, before we get started, can I address the inevitable question, is Jake Gyllenhaal on steroids for this movie? I gotta give you my opinion here. Knowing that, yes, a lot of times these guys will indulge in order to get into their best shape ever for whatever role they're playing, I gotta say, I don't really see it here. If you look at the evolution of Jake Gyllenhaal's body over the course of many, many years, this doesn't look very unattainable, especially when you realize that he's been committed to his body and training for a long period of time. And specifically for this role, he actually didn't bulk up or put on a lot of muscle, he actually cut down, supposedly from 205 down to 184 to play this role. 184 pounds of muscle, and again, when you look at his body here, it doesn't really look very enhanced to me. So, reviewing celebrity workouts is something that I've done for quite a while. Whether it be Zac Efron, or way back to Taylor Lautner, or even Amir Khan, I like to look into what's being done, but I like to do it from a different standpoint, as actually someone who's been in the trenches and done exactly this. And I have a high level of respect for the trainer who's doing these workouts. Because let's face it, whenever we review any workout, you have to understand you might not be getting the full picture. As a matter of fact, in the case of Jake Gyllenhaal, this transformation for this movie took place over the course of an entire year. We're looking at one single workout they did for Men's Health magazine. Probably not encapsulating everything that was done. But again, who cares what they're doing if it has no application to you? So what I want to do in these videos is make sure that you know what they're doing, why they might be doing it, but more importantly, can you benefit from it? And if not exactly this, what can you do instead to get something for your own training? That being said, the role he's playing here actually required him to be more athletic, which you'll see showed up in a lot of his training. So let's start going through piece by piece to see what we're talking about. And here, we start off with some mobility work. And again, his trainer, Jason Walsh, is actually utilizing some sticks to do the mobility. Now, is this a gimmick? No. These sticks are actually helpful because they allow you to get into deeper stretches. Now, you don't have to have sticks. I talked about many times how you could just utilize the things in your own space. If you want to do a good thoracic extension stretch, you could utilize a bench. If you want to get a deeper pec minor stretch, you utilize a squat rack. If you want to get a better thoracic stretch, you take a pole or a broomstick, you put it on your back. Utilizing implements to deepen stretches is a very common practice, not just for actors and athletes, but just everyone, really. And I think you should be leaning into that, literally, if you want to get more benefits in your stretching. Okay, the next part is the use of this machine here, the Proteus. Now, I can tell you, I've used this machine firsthand, and it is pretty damn badass. Now, is it necessary for the average trainer? No, but I'm gonna give you something you can do instead. But what this Proteus does is it has three-dimensional resistance. So as he's pulling, it's resisting him through the pull. As he's pushing, it's resisting him on the push. The bar itself is being resisted through space. What does that sound like if you don't have access to something like this? A landmine setup, where all you have to do is stick a barbell in a corner, and you've got some of the major benefits here carrying over to you in your training. Now again, you're not resisting the push and the pull, but you do get that resistance on rotation and that eccentric control of rotation like we get through an exercise like this. I do think that for this specific role, is this something that he needs to do? Look it, the point is he wants to train like a fighter and feel like a fighter. He's up on his feet, he's moving around laterally, he's got this explosive movement component. I wouldn't critique this because again, these character actors a lot of times like to be and exist as the character that they're playing. If you want to be a fighter, train like a fighter, this is certainly something that a fighter or an athlete with a high rotational demand would do, and therefore I don't have any problem with it at all. Next up, he showcases these isometrics, right? And here he's doing one of my favorite exercises, the inverted row. Now, what's the point here? He's got a protocol, 30 seconds on, rest for 30 seconds, do 3 sets. I do think that there's another option that you might find more interesting, but isometrics as a whole do belong in some portion of your training. From a strength standpoint, they find that the strength gains usually happen only about 10 degrees above and below the portion of the range of motion that you're training that isometric in. So you wouldn't want to train it in just one spot, you'd want to do it at different points along the way. That being said, if you opt for something like an overcoming isometric, where the goal is not to prevent yourself from falling out of a position, but to try to overcome a position that you're in, and usually with a weight that does not allow you to move it at all, now you have the ability to build recruitment capacity, more of an ability to recruit more type 2 muscle fibers into the exercise that I'm doing, which does tend to carry over better to strength and in the long run to size gains. And again, don't get hung up on the sequence that they're being done in, who knows what order they were shot in and then edited back into these videos. I think people get far too critical of what they're exactly seeing here and trying to hold it as the holy grail, realizing that again, 1 year of training is here. And this is just one representative example that they shot on one single day. Probably trying to give them a glimpse of the different types of things they've done in their entire workout. Which brings us to something like this, sled work. Again, training athletically, is a sled a great tool for athletic training? 100%. It's eccentric free training, which means that when you're doing these exercises that you can see here, there's very little eccentric stress on the muscle. So while they have a big force demand and require that you're able to overcome this, again, weight that's being dragged behind you, building good leg strength, you don't have that eccentric component that can leave you sore. So this type of activity could be done on a regular basis, certainly more than 2 or 3 times a week, which will allow you to get a conditioning benefit, but again, still tend a little bit towards the strength component for your lower body. So I have no problem with this at all either. So far, all things that I like. And for those people now that want to say, well, he should be squatting. Well, guess what? He's squatting, right? And we see him squatting here 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps. So he's going heavy. And what I like here is he's using the safety squat bar, which we have here in the gym. Look at any variation of a squat is better than no variation of a squat. And the idea here is that he finds it more comfortable, he says, for his shoulder limitations of range of motion. So if he can't really get back into this position because he's got limited range of motion in his shoulders, then the safety squat bar eliminates that need. Again, I don't have any problem. I like when the basics are covered here, and I'm sure his trainer knows exactly what to do in terms of progressing him on this lift and building up his strength over time, over the course of an entire year. And again, when you complement that with the athletic training, again, I don't have a problem with it. Next up, we've got some forearm work. So not only does abs look amazing here, and I'm sure that was part of the decision to shoot this from this angle. Look, guys, I know all the tricks for this, okay? I've been in this setting and in these shoots. I know what's going on here, but is doing forearm work beneficial to you and your workouts? Because again, I want to utilize these videos to showcase what's being done in Hollywood, but say, what's the application to you? Is it worth a damn or is it not? Because I think when you watch these videos, you're trying to assess, should I be copying what Jake did so I can look like Jake? And unfortunately, that doesn't usually work all the time for everyone that wants to copy these workouts. But could you pull the elements and make them work for you? You damn well should be doing some forearm work if you want to plug the energy leaks in the rest of your training, or at least those breaks in the kinetic chain, because weak forearms are literally going to weaken your ability to lift heavier weights on your big lifts. They're the link between you and the barbell. So if you have weak forearms, you're gonna have a broken link between you and the barbell, meaning the rest of your lift will be sacrificed in some way, shape, or form. But when you look at him doing these drills, again, it's any exercise that you can to help to sort of increase the size and strength of your forearms. And I say size, believe it or not, Sylvester Stallone told me literally that the reason why he always tries to work his neck and his forearms is because even when you're in a shirt, those two areas are exposed and look a certain way whether you're on the red carpet or not. So not only do they make you look good in everything you wear, I'm telling you functionally, these are critical muscles to work if you want to be able to perform at a high level. And of course, as a fighter, your ability to grab people and move them around is certainly something you can benefit from here too. Don't skip your forearm work. Next thing, offset loading. So do I like this? I love this. I train with all my athletes in some way with offset loading. And again, understand the goal of what's being done here. His goal was to lose weight, get cut up, right? So you're gonna be required to burn a lot of calories and move around. We'll talk about his diet shortly. He wants to be athletic. He has to move on film and look like a fighter. He has to be opposite of an actual fighter, Conor McGregor in the movie. I don't have a problem with anything that's being done here. Now, whether someone wants to point to whether or not this is the best hypertrophy exercise, that wasn't the goal here. Whether someone wants to say that's not how you build strength, that wasn't the goal here. The goal here was to make sure he can move on film. And again, he's not the youngest guy in the world. He wants to be able to, look the part. So the offset loading obviously challenges his core. He's got the bag up on one shoulder here. He's doing a lunge, which is one of my favorite lower body exercises. Then he's going back and forth over the bag again to be athletic. There is nothing wrong with anything being done here. Sorry if you have a problem with it. Again, you don't understand the goals of his training if you do. And even if you did disagree with me, you still wanted to see that basic training, well, here it is. Again, he's still got his basic exercises in here. Building up his bench press to build up his chest, building up his squat to build up his legs. Again, core foundational movements that are still here in place. Now, the use of the Swiss bar. Why? Again, shoulder issues. I don't know what Jake's physical conditioning is here, but I would assume that he is very conscientious of his shoulders, because we already talked about the positioning of his arms on the squat seemed to be a little bit difficult for him because he lacked mobility. Well, here, maybe his shoulders still bother him, so utilizing the Swiss bar is going to make it a little bit easier by going into that neutral grip. But a press is still a press, and again, limiting some of that bottom range of motion might prevent his shoulders or his bicep tendon, whatever it is that's bothering him, from getting flared up and then preventing him from training at all. So the consistency of training is going to be most important to him looking the way he wants to look. So I'm all for utilizing whatever bar you need to get the job done. And then at this point in the video, they kind of break away to talk about his diet. And we don't get much. We get a chicken breast, a cool picture of him at the weigh-in, and then a blender protein shake. And while I can't vouch for what this protein is, I can tell you that if you're looking for a great protein, RX Pro 30G with more protein per serving than any on the market is probably a good choice. I'll end my commercial there. That said, guys, it's obvious when you're trying to get lean that you're gonna need to take in fewer calories than you're burning. And with these types of workouts, clearly he was burning a lot of calories, so it might come as a surprise to you that he might have been eating 4,000 calories a day and still been in a deficit. However, when you are going to try to attempt to do this yourself, and you're going to be in a slight deficit, and I say slight because you don't want to have to try to do this over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. Again, we're talking about a year. And with the longer time frame, you're able to take a smaller deficit, which will allow you to maintain more of your muscle mass in the process. In order to make sure you can do that, you do want to prioritize your protein to make sure that while you're dropping calories, you're keeping your protein content high, which will also help you to keep the lean muscle that you're trying hard to build. That being said, now we move on to the next portion of the workout. And here we have a chain push-up. Now, people like to get on chains and say that they're just gimmicks and they don't work. Guys, there's a very specific use for a chain on an exercise like this. You're looking to create more weight at the top of the exercise and less weight at the bottom of the exercise, where at the bottom of the push-up it's going to be more difficult coming out of the hole, and at the top it's going to be easier. But because you're lifting the entire weight of the chain at the top, it's an adaptive exercise, right? It's adapting as you move to keep the load where it needs to be. I don't have a problem with chain workouts, and if you have multiple chains on your body, like you see here, and the luxury of having a trainer with you, they can strip off one chain every time and make sure that you're doing drop sets to and through failure. It's also being used in this case as a finisher. Again, who knows if it's the finisher of everything I just showed you or just the finisher on a given day, but I don't mind the exercise and I certainly don't mind the push-up. And by the way, he's doing it through good full range of motion, which is a must if you're gonna do a push-up to meet my standards. Next, we have push-pull training. So now a lot of people like to give people shit for doing this exercise. The benefit here is not to try to build your chest to its fullest degree. The benefit here is not to try to build your back to its fullest degree. And remember I talked about in the beginning, the buy-in from the client here. If Jake is doing this and feeling more explosive, meeting the requirements that he had to try to look and feel and move more like a fighter in this upcoming movie, it's meeting the requirements of what it needs to do. Behind the scenes, I can tell you it's a great core exercise. So if you are not interested in moving like a fighter and you want to train your core and you want to use weight, do a crunch pull down with a cable. You're going to meet your requirements there. Do a hanging leg raise where your legs become the weight. It's fine. It's what I do most of the time. But if you want to do something a little bit more athletic and still train your core, these push-pull combos do a really good job of that, and they force you to move in a movement pattern you probably aren't used to at all. This is an opportunity to try to do that. By the way, a clean and press overhead would also be a pull into a push. There's lots of different options. I just encourage you to explore them and don't look at them and cast them aside just because you think they look gimmicky. And then he tends to end the workout here with one final sort of burnout or some conditioning work at the very end. He's got interval training here, 20 seconds on, 30 off, doing a sprint climber. And this is one of the hardest damn conditioning workouts you can do. There's a lot of different things you could do conditioning on. This one happens to be one of the hardest. Why? Because utilizing both the upper body and the lower body at the same time. And you can see him sucking wind here at the end. I do think that doing your conditioning work at the end of your workout is something that is highly preferred and recommended if your goal is to build muscle. In this case, again, they're kind of working, as you can see, conditioning work into everything he's doing. Okay, so it's not just being reserved for the end here always, it's actually being incorporated as you look at his workouts into the things he's doing. The Proteus machine itself was definitely a lot of conditioning work too. But if you're gonna try to train yourself for hypertrophy, stick your conditioning work at the end of the workout, or even better, on your off days to try to focus your effort on building muscle and conserve your energy for your next hard workout. And so overall, how would I rate Jake Gyllenhaal's workout for Roadhouse? Again, guys, based on what I have available to me, and you too, I have to say I like the components here. I do not know how it's being put together piece by piece by piece, but that being said, the components themselves are checking a lot of the required boxes. And at the end of the day, why'd you click on this video in the first place? Because you saw Jake Gyllenhaal's body and you said, damn, he looks good. He must have done something damn right. And like I said in the beginning, I do not think in this case that this was a result of just steroid use to get him here. All right, guys, if you want more of these, leave your comments below. Tell me what else you want to see. I do not have a problem doing these. I just want to know who you want me to cover, and I'll dive in. All right, guys, if you're looking for full workouts, we have them over at athleanx.com, as well as Pro30G Protein available there too. Click subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.